March 1st, Main Highway, Coconut Grove. I am not following Caitlin. I'm not bicycling through Coconut Grove, past the trendy shops on Saturday afternoon, searching for yellow hair among the rickshaws, tourists, and Dalmatians. I can't hear her voice over the birds or the noise spilling from ghetto blasters. And the crowd drinking spiked Slurpees on the balcony at Fat Tuesday doesn't see me seeing her. Finally, I lose her. Next turn, I'm staring at the steroid-enhanced arm of the law. Need some help, son? The cop asks. Caitlin and Elsa stand on the corner. Elsa smiles and waves. Then a skater blocks my view. No, sir. I emphasize the sir slightly. Way to deal with cops is give them the respect they think they deserve. Might I ask what you're doing here? You might, with probable cause, but I shrug. Waiting for someone. These ladies say you're bothering them. Don't believe I spoke to them, sir. His cop eyes meet mine. Feels like an hour. Spots of perspiration appear on his uniform, and I see wheels turning. He knows there's a restraining order. No, I'm on the same planet as Caitlin. He's trying to put two and two together to make a legal violation, so he can haul me off and get out of this heat. It would take a miracle to get me out of this. Then I get one. Leo steps from behind a line of cars. He holds aviator sunglasses in one hand, fingers in the other, fingers that, incidentally, are attached to this tiny, pretty brunette who's gazing adoringly at him. Nick, what it is, he says, looking from me to the cop, and Caitlin, then back at me. He doesn't acknowledge Elsa. Been waiting long? Long enough. I fake it. Where were you? Mr. Cool smiles and leans against a rack of Spanish newspapers. Picked Nasa up from a school-related function, smile at the cop, and all the nuns need something done. Tote that barge, lift that bale, that kind of stuff. A Christian martyr, I say. Don't let it happen again. The cop looks from the pet store on the right, which sells only Akitas, to the tattoo parlor on the left, and possibly sees his air-conditioned squad car fade to memory. You were meeting here? I always wanted a dog, Nasa says, straight-faced. On the corner, Elsa rolls her eyes. Leo must decide the cop needs more convincing. Hey, you know Ray DeLeon? He asks, identifying Ray from our family violence class. He's with the city police. He's my cousin. Knows Nick, too. Ask him. The cop considers. Well, if you're friends of Ray's, don't forget to say hello to his girlfriend Diana, I add. Ray would say anything to change the subject away from how he knows us. The officer strolls to where they're standing. Sorry, ladies. Can't arrest someone just for being in the grove. He was following us, Elsa whines. That's fine. Caitlin grabs Elsa's arm. Let's go. Elsa protests, but Caitlin's feet are in motion. I watch her go. When the cop leaves, too, Leo faces me. In a spot of trouble, eh? He says in his best James Bond impression. And you, my truant friend, I say in the same accent. Missed you in class today, chap. Last week, too. Poor dear Nick, Leo tut-tuts, still British. That ugly chapter is behind me, my boy. He gestures, by way of explanation, to the brunette. This is Nasa. We're back together. Nice to meet you. She holds out the hand not in Leo's. I take it. It feels like a warm bird, and I watch Leo's grip on her other hand tighten, until finally she releases mine. Hot girl, Leo says, his eyes following Caitlin down Main Highway. Stick with me? I'll help you get her back. I felt like someone had tightened the lug nuts on my face. Caitlin should have been in the group that came out before. Was she making me wait on purpose? Had she already left? I didn't need this on top of Tom's sermon. I stalked the suddenly empty halls, not exactly sure where the chorus room was, but finding it by the sound of Caitlin's voice. Rejoice, rejoice. Why was she singing while I waited? She'd rather sing than be with me now? I turned the doorknob slowly, soundlessly, and slipped through. I stood frozen, watching. Two figures were by the piano. Caitlin and the guy playing. I knew him. Derek Wayne. We'd pretty much quit calling him Wayne the Brain last year. She stood so close, their bodies would touch if she inhaled too much air. Her fingertips grazed his shoulder. She leaned to turn the page, her blonde hair brushing his pale face. My fists clenched. She shouldn't touch another guy like that. She continued singing, every high and low note hitting like ice through my eye. Then, in the hardest section, she missed a note. Caitlin collapsed in a fit of giggles onto the piano bench. Oh, God, I'll never get this. Derek stopped playing. I won't listen to you put yourself down, Caitlin McCourt. You're just fishing for compliments. I'm not. You know you have the best voice around. Oh, sure. But she returned his smile, encouraging him, like she'd take on anyone who'd have her. Slut. They could probably hear my heart by then, so I did the stupid, cliched thing. I cleared my throat. Kat jumped. Both turned and looked at me. Nick, Kat said. I didn't know you were here. Guess not. She thought I was stupid. She came over and tried to lead me toward Derek. I wouldn't budge. You two know each other? She asked. Derek eyed me. We've met. He turned to Caitlin. I didn't know you and Nick dated? Now you do, I said. Without another word, I pulled Caitlin out the door, and we walked to the car in silence. It was closing in on 5, and the parking lot was empty. Caitlin took my hand. I jerked it away. In my mind, I saw her touching Derek's shoulder, her hair against his face. Our footsteps were loud as a marching band in the motionless parking lot. I stopped beside my car. I felt so weak, so used. She was making a fool of me, and I couldn't stop it. Finally, the words built up to the point where they exploded from me. Why didn't you throw him down and screw him right there? Caitlin stopped, backing away. What? You know what, the way you were coming on to him. Are you crazy? She said. It was Derek. The air was thick, heavy. That's it. I'm crazy. I saw you. I saw you flirting with him, touching him. I saw him looking at you. I raised an arm. It was a gesture. I wasn't going to hit her, was I? But she flinched. I knew I was yelling, but I didn't stop. Like that fat, hot air made me yell, made me say, Slut! I can't let you out of my sight, can I? You can't be trusted, you bitch. Caitlin turned to me. You can trust me. How can you say this? How can I? Like I didn't know better. How can you be like that with other guys when you said you loved me? Are you lying about being a virgin? Sweet little Caitlin. You play hard to get with me, but you'd spread your legs for him, wouldn't you? I grabbed her arm. The anger inside me was alive, and it made me want things, crazy things. Part of me wanted to hit her. The other part wanted to force her against the car and take what she wouldn't let me have, what I knew she was giving him. I felt every hair on my head, every pore of skin ripping open, and I yelled, You sleeping with him, Kat? Is that where you learned what we do together? From other guys? She didn't speak. I gripped her arm harder. Is it? No. She stared at me, and once she spoke, she kept repeating, No, no. Sick of her, I dropped her arm and walked away. Forget it. I'm leaving. I got in the car and elbowed the door locked, still not looking at her. I gunned the motor and started to pull out of the parking space. Then I saw Caitlin. She stood crying, no cars in sight, no one to see or hear or care. Caitlin's hair hung in her face, making her look small. She clutched her arm where I'd held it, but I could see a red mark spreading under her hand. I had done that. God, I was like my father, just exactly like him. I had this strange feeling in my brain, like I'd lost something irreplaceable. I pushed it away. Caitlin came to the window. I rolled it down, and her words spewed out in a gush of tears. Looking at her, I felt like crying myself, and I never cried. I'm sorry, Nick, she said. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I did, but I won't do it again. There was no one but you. Ever. I never. You're the only boy I ever kissed. She knelt to look at me. Please give me another chance. She was apologizing. I'd hurt her, and she was sorry. Maybe I hadn't really hurt her. She was worked up, but she'd be okay. I'd make it okay. I opened the door and took her in my arms. I'm sorry too, Kat. You know I'd never hurt you. I kissed her. First her face, her lips, then her arm where it kept getting redder. I wanted to kiss every hair on her head to keep her with me. Sometimes I get crazy. It's just, I'd die if I lost you. I won't do it again. Caitlin's tears soaked my face. I won't do anything to make you mad again. It's okay. She was all right. I hadn't hurt her. Nothing had changed. In a way, it felt good, knowing she'd forgive anything. Safe. Still, I wouldn't risk it again. I'd be the perfect boyfriend. Now that I knew she loved me, it would be easy. I held her until every tear was gone. March 7th, Mario's class. When is it okay to use violence? Mario asks at the beginning of class. As usual, Ray has the kiss-ass answer. It's never all right, he says. And some guys, truth be told, I'm one of them, start making kissy noises. A few others nod. Never? Mario's left eyebrow heads north. I was born at night, but not last night. We're talking about you guys. Do you expect me to believe I work some sort of voodoo and you're cured? Ray says nothing, but I suggest self-defense, and just about everyone nods. Mario nods too. All right, someone physically attacks you, you're within your rights fighting back. St. Francis of Assisi would probably buy that. You guys, I've got a feeling, could come up with some other examples. How about if someone's attacking an old lady or something? Kelly asks. Grandma's getting stomped. Mr. Steele does a Van Damme on her attacker. Okay, what else? Silence. I assume no one here is okay with smacking a woman every so often to show who's boss? Mario asks. There are snickers, but no takers. You're sure, he says. When no one answers, he says, Good. Then we're making progress. More silence, but Tiny cracks his knuckles like he does when something's bothering him. He doesn't speak, though, until finally we're all watching. What do you think you're looking at, he demands. Something else, Tyrone? Mario says. Yeah. What if she's dissing you? Dissing you how? Like if she says she'll pick you up somewhere, and she's late. Been there, I say, thinking about yesterday's journal. This happened last week, Tyrone? Mario says. When Tiny nods, Mario says, Did Danielle say what kept her? Maybe. You mean you didn't listen? Tiny scowls, and Mario adds, You thought you already knew? I knew. What did you know? Mario asks, patient as an hourglass. She was with someone else. She was with me, Kelly says. Tiny stays seated but points a big forefinger in Kelly's direction. Don't you be messing with me, white trash. Okay, so we've all been there, Mario says. The woman in your life is supposed to pick you up at 4 o'clock. Now it's 4, and she's not there, and you're thinking, gesturing toward Tiny, you're thinking, what? Tiny blows air out his nose, a sound reminiscent of Moby Dick. I'm thinking she'd best be there before 4:01. Okay, Mario says, but now it's 10 after, and it's hot, and you showered after football practice, but there's 2 wet patches starting on the back of your shirt. She's not there, and you're thinking... Mario glances around. Nick? I'm thinking she forgot, I say. You thinking she forgot? Or are you thinking, damn it, that bitch forgot? Second one, I admit. A few chuckles. And why is it the second one? When I shrug, Mario says, It's the second because what else are you thinking besides she forgot? He leans back. You're thinking she found something better to do? Or someone better? She doesn't care if you melt in this heat because she's never seeing you again? I'm just thinking she forgot, I say. But he is right. I'd probably think all that. I had thought all that. Why assume she forgot? Mario turns to the whole group. How about next time your girlfriend's late, you think of the 1,000 reasons that might be, other than forgetting or being with some other guy? Ray's raising his hand. He's the only one who still does. The rest of us call out when we talk at all. Mario nods at him, and Ray says, Like what? How about if you thought, poor Danielle must be caught in traffic, or, gosh, I hope Diana hasn't had to take Grandma for a heart-lung transplant, or, my lord, what if Caitlin's car broke down? Wouldn't you feel better, and, more important, less likely to haul off and smack her, if you thought happy thoughts instead of that same old country song that goes, She's a bitch, she's a slut, she's heartless, she don't love me no more? 'Cause once you start hearing that song, you're in for trouble. But those things didn't happen, I say. None of it happened, Mario says. Till she gets there, it's just conjecture and speculation. Her forgetting is part of a bizarro world you create for yourself. And those other things, the car trouble and the dying grandmother, happen in a happier place. Let's call it Mario Land. It's all fiction, and you're the writer. So you may as well write something that calms you down as something that riles you up. We all nod, and Mario takes a clipboard from his desk. The reason I mention this is it's time you guys came up with your personal violence policies. Mario's gaze bounces off each of us before returning to his clipboard. You'll be held to these policies for the rest of this class, but they may be challenged. Challenged how? Kelly asks. Held to them how? I ask at the same time. Mario grins at us. I'm getting to that. I want you to take a sheet of paper. On one side, write any situation where you feel it's okay to use violence. On the other, write all the times it's not, like, it's okay to hit someone in self-defense, or it's wrong to hit teachers who give me bad grades. Not so fast on that second one, Kelly says. Mario ignores him. Then if something happens, you only have to check your violence policy to know whether it's okay to hit Diana, because she left water spots on the glasses. Mario cocks his head toward Ray. But I warn you, if your violence policy says it is, I'll take issue with it, and you'll need to justify it. Otherwise, I keep your policy in an envelope, and no one but you looks at it. We all start writing. I go with the obvious first, self-defense, or when you meet someone outside after school, which hasn't happened in years. Then draw a blank. I turn to the situations where violence is wrong. My eyes drop, and I remember the violence behind before I look ahead. I know what Mario wants me to write, that what happened with Caitlin won't happen again. I want to say it, but it seems too easy now that she's gone. And anyway, that's not what I feel like writing. I glance at Mario. You really won't read these? He raises a palm. Scout's honor. At the top of the page, I write, when I have kids, I will never hit them. I hope that's true. After class, I step outside. A black Trans Am's waiting, and Leo honks the horn. Hey, you got sprung early, huh? He yells. Let's go have some fun. Leo, Nasa, and I head to South Beach, where we spend the rest of the day body surfing and looking at supermodels on rollerblades. When I get home that night, I realize it's the longest I've gone without thinking of Caitlin. Later that day. But I'm thinking about her now. That's what Judge Debbie said, after all. Think about what you've done. I am. I'm thinking about it and writing about it. But what good is it if Caitlin won't even talk to me? In October, I was the perfect boyfriend. The morning after our fight, I showed up on Caitlin's doorstep with 10 teddy bears for her collection. I sent her cards, even wrote a poem once, and peppered her with gifts the rest of the month, ending up with the Drama Club's Halloweenogram carnation sale when I bought 50, writing a different message on each card, so Caitlin was weighed down with flowers like a beauty pageant winner. Me, I got one from Tom, saying, do us a favor, wear a mask this year. Halloween, we had lunch at Mr. Pizza as usual. We flocked there days it was too hot for the beach, attracted less by the food than by our ability to take the place over. The restaurant was small, and 2 of its 3 benches belonged to our group. The last we left for whatever losers straggled in. Waiting by the counter, Peyton asked how I'd voted in that day's homecoming court elections. When I shrugged, Peyton said, you voted for Caitlin and Liana, so you and Tom will get reflected glory from having famous girlfriends. Did I mention Caitlin was nominated? Needless to say, I wasn't thrilled at her getting that kind of publicity. I wouldn't be good enough for her anymore. Still, I avoided the issue of how I'd voted, telling Peyton, Caitlin doesn't reflect on me. You going to take that from him, Kat? Peyton asked. Caitlin smiled. Oh, he's just talking. Anyway, you and Liana will win. Peyton patted Caitlin's shoulder and told her it was a big honor for her even to be nominated. Caitlin looked at me for help, but I said nothing. I gripped her arm and steered her to the far side of the room. Then we stopped. There were people on our bench. Now, I know it wasn't our bench officially. Still, we had squatters' rights born of 2 months staking our claim. And there was plenty of room on the 3rd bench. That's what Peyton was explaining to the intruders. One problem. The invading army consisted of Derek Wayne, dressed as Beethoven or Mozart, one of those, and Elsa, wearing something feathered which may or may not have been a costume. Peyton was saying, but you don't get it, it's our table. You're right, I fail to understand, Elsa replied. Do you have a record title, or do you lease monthly? I figured her comment translated to, don't see your name on it, but Peyton was totally confused. Elsa said we were welcome to wait. She turned to Derek and they high-fived. But Tom took the seat by Derek. Liana was already sitting, probably the reason behind Tom's swift and wuss-like action. I wasn't about to let Caitlin near Elsa or Derek, so after the others sat, I led her toward the center. Elsa's voice filled the room. Sit, Caitlin. Good girl. And other dog comments. I fed Caitlin a bite of my lunch. She said, not pizza, Nick. I'm on a diet. What for? You're skinny. I kissed her. And beautiful. I want to stay that way. But a second later, she snuck a piece of pepperoni. Not to worry, Caitlin, Elsa said, not quite aloud. You can always excuse yourself if you have the urge to purge. Ignore her, I said. Derek was staring at us. I fed Caitlin another bite. We crossed arms and ate off each other's forks until Derek looked away, and even our friends started throwing balled-up napkins at us. As soon as we finished, I was out of there, cat in tow. Since just about everyone had come with us, the table cleared. In my car, Peyton said, "How sad, a lessie and a geekoid." Caitlin glanced at me, then back at Peyton. Finally, she almost whispered, "Elsa Perez is one of my best friends." "Yeah, she looked thrilled to see you," I said. "Why don't you hang out with her? That's so obviously the cool group." From the back seat, Tom tried to change the subject, asking if Caitlin was going to Zach's Thanksgiving weekend. I started to say of course we were. It would be our big weekend, but Kat interrupted, looking at me. "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you." Her voice was soft. "I have to visit my dad then." My hand welded to the gear shift, and I eyed the road. Finally, I said, "Fine, spend the weekend with the great man. It's been, 6 months since he called? I'd run before he changes his mind." "I have to go," she said. I told her to go ahead, but I wasn't staying home. After all, Key West was a pretty wild town. I hung a right into a space, then got out and slammed the door behind me, finishing with, "You can be replaced." I was halfway to school before everyone untangled themselves, and Kat ran after me, yelling for me to wait. I kept walking. "Go hang with the Geek Brigade. You fit right in, you fat loser." Behind me, Tom started to say something. I ignored him. Caitlin said, "I'll go with you, okay? You have to visit Daddy." "I don't want to now." She grabbed at my arm, saying, "I want to be with you." "I don't know." But I slowed, and she draped herself around my shoulders. "I want to be with you," she repeated, kissing me. I kissed her back. "That's my girl." I put my arm around her and slid my hand under her shirt. "I have plans for that weekend, you know." Caitlin said she knew. Then she said, "But I'm not sure. I'm afraid." "Don't be afraid of me." I kissed her. The others caught up by then and followed us, making smoochy noises. I ignored them and focused on Kat, saying, "I'm the only one who cares about you. Not your dad, not Elsa. Even these guys are just jealous of you. I'm the only one you can trust." March 18th, hallway outside Mr. Christie's class. "Hey, Nick, buddy." Saint. We haven't spoken since December, but today he's behind me. I find my locker and lower my backpack to the ground. "How come you never told me Caitlin had such a great body?" he says. "Can't appreciate it in those dresses she wears." He just wants to piss me off, I know, and it's working. I try to concentrate on my combination lock, but my fingers feel thick. I forget the numbers. "I mean, usually girls who lose weight got tits like little elf shoes," he continues. "Not Caitlin's. They're great." He says it like Tony the Tiger. Don't react. That's what he wants. But it gets me mad. This guy's a hero and I'm a scum? Around me, lockers slam. I'm still opening mine. Saint's voice rumbles in my ears. Much more than a mouthful. I whirl to face him. He towers over me, licking his lips. "You want to hit me, Andreas?" Saint's mouth twists into a smirk. "Be a new experience for you, picking on someone who'd hit back." He walks away. After school, I'm at 7-Eleven again, dialing Caitlin's number. She answers on the third ring, and I blurt out, "You know O'Connor's telling everyone about your breasts?" "Don't call me!" she screams. The line goes dead. But she listens 15 minutes later when I call back. I repeat Saint's comment, figuring she'll know what a sleaze she's with. Instead, she says, "Sounds like something you'd say." "I never talked about your body to other guys." "No, just to me, putting me down and making me want to die." "I didn't do that." "Spare me. You did it all the time." "I'm sorry. I didn't know I made you feel that way." The sound of her voice puts my heart in my pants again. "We had good times too, though, remember?" She doesn't answer. "How about when we saw the dolphins? Remember that?" Caitlin doesn't speak, but the pause holds a promise like she's missing me too. Finally she says, "Of course I remember." "Does O'Connor ever do anything romantic like that?" No answer. "I bet he doesn't. Bet he throws a burger at you and tries to jump you in that clunker of his." "Nick, the dolphins are still there, Kat, and the beach. And us. We could do it all again." "I can't." I miss you, Caitlin. I miss holding you. You know there's no one else. I pull the receiver from my face, hating the feel of someone else's skin oils. I listen, though. Caitlin's breath quickens, and I say, how about I meet you there in an hour, just to talk? It takes her a moment to say, make it 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I hang up, fingering the ring in my pocket. In 2 hours, it will be back on Caitlin's finger. Half an hour later, I pull out the journal. I've gotten used to carrying it around, writing in it. But if all goes well, this will be the last time I write. So today, I'll write about something good. There were those too, you know. Caitlin was chosen homecoming princess. She wore blue, and at halftime, they drove her onto the field in a loaner car from Albritton Cadillac. I sat beside her. Liana was the other princess, so she and Tom were with us. We were making the big loop, and the whole time I'm remembering the Kennedy assassination films we saw at the Smithsonian during last year's close-up trip. Like, 1 second they were smiling and waving, the next, Brain City. But Kat turns to me and says, this is the best day of my life. Yeah? Yes, and it's because of you. I reach for her hand, loving her and unspeakably sad I didn't vote for her. Then Liana had to butt in. It's not because of him, she said. Everyone loves you, Caitlin. Caitlin said, they love me because I'm thin and I'm Nick Andreas' girlfriend. A year ago, I couldn't have rented space at your lunch table, and if I'd shown up, they'd have called me a geekoid or a lezzy like they call my friends. Peyton's such an idiot, Liana said. Then we all are, even me. The whole time Kat talked, she kept smiling a beauty queen smile, waving. Every day since then, we've practically run to stake out our table so they don't sit there. I do it too. That doesn't mean, all I'm saying is it could have been me you were running from. Liana took Caitlin in her arms. Oh, pobrecita, poor little thing, you're wrong. It could never be you. I know what I know, Caitlin said. It still could be. We circled at 2 miles per hour like a buzzard staring down a lunchbox full of carrion, and Liana hugged Kat until they looked like a heap of discarded prom dresses. Principal Fernandez's voice came over the loudspeaker. And in the red Seville STS from Albritton Cadillac, here come sophomore princesses Liana Castro and Caitlin McCourt with their escorts. She said it was the best day of her life. March 18th, beach behind my house. At 6:30, I'm still waiting for Caitlin. And 7, and 7:30. I want to scream at the seagulls to stop screaming or throw myself into the wild surf and never crawl out. And I want to see Caitlin. That bitch. I feel the urge, no, the compulsion to go to her house and make her talk to me. I rise, planning to do it, but Saint's probably there, waiting. I sink to the sand. I'll go some other time. The sudden rain is a wake-up call, but I don't move. Some of us are meant to be rained on. I lie back and stare at the sky. March 24th. Almost a week since I've written. I had this fantasy that I wouldn't have to write anymore, that I'd get back together with Caitlin and she'd drop the restraining order. Then I wouldn't have to go to class or write this journal or anything, but that's what it was, a fantasy. The reality is, everything's still a mess. Maybe that's why I don't mind writing about this particular memory. It was probably the best night of my life. After the homecoming game, the girls retreated to a top-secret location for their sorority initiation, and the guys, in time-honored tradition, crashed it. 5 of us piled into my car and drove to Jessica Schweitzer's house. The night was extra dark. My car was filled with the stink of guys fresh from a football game. We pulled off the causeway and into the network of winding side streets. Saint and Zach were arguing about the smell. Zach started out sniffing the air, asking if something had died in the trunk. Finally, he said, "You guys reek. We smell like men, wuss." Saint raised both arms and sniffed his pits. "Just because you're not a player." Zach said, "I know. It brings tears to my eyes." "Nope, that's your stench doing that." He demanded to know why we hadn't showered after the game. Saint said our post-game aroma was the girls' punishment for blowing us off. Finally, I pulled over to put the top down. I sympathized. I'd showered at halftime, warmed the bench second half. I wasn't a player either, not in any meaningful sense. When I started the car again, Tom held up 2 liquor bottles, yelling, "Attitude adjustment hour!" He downed half of one before handing it to Zach. By the time it got to me, it was empty. And Tom was singing his brother's fraternity songs. He got raunchier on the second bottle. Tom didn't usually drink much. We reached the Schweitzer Street. Everyone shut up except Tom. Stealth was key, so I cut the lights. Tom was giggling. Dane, equally wasted, tried to shut him up. I pulled behind a line of cars. We closed our doors with barely a click and crept across the dark asphalt. Ahead, I saw Zach's silhouette. He dangled an object. I shined my flashlight and saw it was a camera. "In case they're naked," he whispered. We'd all heard about the sorority at UM where they danced nude around a campfire. "We're not that lucky," Saint whispered back. I laughed, but my body reacted differently, and I was glad it was dark. We reached the house. Lights flickered in an upstairs window. There was a tall orchid tree beside it. Tom stumbled forward and commanded us to help him up. Dane pulled him away. Tom was too trashed for climbing, and Zach griped about how there could be poisonous caterpillars in the orchid tree. Finally, Saint said, "No guts, no glory," and while the others argued over who was drunker, Saint hoisted himself onto a limb and climbed to the open window. I shone my flashlight. The tree sagged under Saint's weight. He gave us a thumbs up, and Zach handed Saint the camera. But Saint climbed down a minute later, saying, "Nick, they're bringing in Caitlin." I climbed up and looked in. Red candles flickered on the windowsill. The sphinxes, dressed in black, formed a circle with Caitlin, blindfolded and wearing white, at its center. Finally, Whitney Brockman, the sorority president, stepped from the circle. She started talking about the symbolism of the Sphinx and how only the enlightened and pure could know her secrets. "Some people will have to settle for enlightened," Ashley whispered. Everyone giggled. Whitney silenced them with a look. She took this way too seriously. Next, Jessica and Peyton brought soap and water. Jessica held the basin while Peyton washed Caitlin's hands. Whitney talked about how it was the hour for cleansing, physical and spiritual. She commanded each of them to cleanse their minds by telling Caitlin their secrets. "I shall begin." She reached for a candle, and I ducked under the windowsill. Smoke stinging my nose. Whitney paused before speaking again. "Those weight loss camps never work, Caitlin," Whitney said. "You'll be fat again by summer." She passed her candle to Jessica, who said, "Even thin? You're ugly." I'd have thought it would have been something more spiritual, but apparently the idea was to unload on Caitlin. One by one, each sphinx told her what they thought about her, and it was never good. I looked up from the windowsill to see Caitlin's face. Her lips were parted, but she said nothing. When the candle got to Peyton, she said, "You think you're big because you won Homecoming Princess, but you got picked because the geeks voted for you. You're Queen Geek, aren't you, Caitlin? We only keep you around because of Nick." She passed the candle to Ashley. Speaking of Nick, the candlelight glowed wildly against Ashley's auburn hair. "Well, just ask where he got those scratches on his back." The group laughed as she displayed her long purple nails. I could tell by Kat's clenching hands that she believed it. All of it. Ashley smirked and passed the candle on. It traveled that wide circle, everyone telling Caitlin how stupid, ugly, and fat she was. Caitlin's eyes were still covered, but her hands worked on her skirt, her mouth set and contorted. Even her head seemed heavy for her slim body. My own legs felt massive beneath me, like they'd soon fail and force me to earth with them. Around the circle, Ashley and some others smiled. A few fidgeted. None looked at Caitlin. If they had, they couldn't have said what they said. "We saw your mom last week at Publix." Morgan Davis nudged her friend Tiffany. "God, Caitlin, tell her to get some normal clothes and act her age. I'd be so embarrassed if I was you." Tiffany completed the thought. "Really, who does she think she is? Madonna?" Kat raised a hand to her eyes, shaking. At the same time, something stung my shoulder, then my back. I remembered my friends on the ground and looked. Zach and Saint threw pebbles at me. "Give us a chance," Zach hissed. I turned back in time to see Caitlin lose it. Whitney extinguished the candle. The room was silent. Whitney embraced Caitlin and smiled, saying, "But no matter what we say, we love you anyway," the group chorused. They descended on Caitlin, hugging and kissing her. Peyton and Ashley held her longest. Kat kept crying. I climbed down and told the guys I thought they were coming out. "Way to hog the seat," Zach gave me a sissy punch. You didn't even take pictures. I'll buy you a Playboy, you little perv. I punched him back, but hard. He fell to the ground and looked at me, shocked. Saint demanded to know what was with me, but I ignored him. I snuck to the front of the house, the others following. We peered around the corner, waiting for the girls. When they came, the pledges were still blindfolded, 6 in all, each led by 2 sphinxes. Caitlin walked between Ashley and Peyton, her mouth a thin line. Beside them, Liana stood straighter, almost daring anyone to screw with her. The sphinxes deposited the pledges on the brick doorstep between 2 columns. They walked toward a grove near where we'd hidden the car. "What do we do?" Saint whispered. I silenced him with a look, then crept across the damp, dark grass and stood in the flower bed. I felt cold, sober. The others followed. In the porch light's glow, Liana nudged Caitlin. "That you, Gatita?" Caitlin sniffled. "Don't let them get to you." Liana started to say something else, but Tom clapped his hand over her mouth. I grabbed Caitlin. Tom jerked his hand away. He stared at it, stunned. "You bit me," he said. "You stink," Liana said. "And you're drunk." Tom laughed. "Drunk enough to do this?" He slung Liana across his shoulder and went after a freshman. By now they were screaming, but not really screaming. Caitlin didn't scream at all, though. She ripped off her blindfold and smiled at me as we grabbed the other girls and half dragged, half carried them toward the car. They'd stopped shrieking, except Melissa Bruce, who beat on Saint so bad he let go. She ran back to the doorstep. "Stupid," I said to Saint. "Hey, I'm not really kidnapping anyone." We ran. Finally, we reached the road's end and stopped. Someone was sitting in the Mustang. I shined the flashlight. Whitney dangled my keys. Jessica sitting next to her. "Not too bright leaving these," Whitney said. She rammed them into the ignition and roared down the road. We put the girls down and ran. Liana and Caitlin had their blindfolds off and followed us. The others stood in the dark street until Saint and Zach went back. After a minute, Tom said he bet they'd just drive around the block. They wouldn't steal my car. I said they'd better not, and we slowed to a walk, singing the gangbang song for the entertainment of Jessica's neighbors. When we reached the house, the sphinxes clustered on the doorstep. My car was near the walkway. I found Whitney and demanded my keys. "No way." Whitney reached for her blouse. I told her putting them down her bra wouldn't help. It would just make it interesting for me. I grabbed her and she kicked me in the ankle. My leg buckled. Bitch. "I don't have them," Whitney said. "They're in the car." "I can't believe you guys ruined everything," Ashley said. I walked toward Ashley, glaring. I can freeze people out when I want. Look at them, so icy they think it's snowing in Miami. I wanted to make Ashley shiver. She'd lied about me to Caitlin. I met her eyes until she looked away. "Who cares?" I said. "This initiation's too long." "It's over now," Whitney said. "You mean we're not being initiated?" Melissa squeaked. "You're in," Whitney said. "You shouldn't be, but you're in. Thank these guys for screwing things up." "You're welcome." Saint laughed like he'd said something hilarious. "Who's up for the beach?" Peyton and Ashley both jumped at that. The others, especially the new initiates, held back, watching Whitney until she shrieked at them to leave. Everyone started for their cars then, but Kat headed for Ashley. I grabbed Caitlin's hand. "I'm taking you home." "You don't have to," she said. "I want to." She squeezed my hand, managing a smile. With a last glance at Ashley, she walked back to my car. The keys hung in the ignition. Lucky for Whitney. Tom and Liana followed, trying to convince us to come to the beach with them. I waved them off. I'd seen Caitlin crying, knew how bad she felt about what they'd said to her. I helped her into the car, my lips brushing against her soft hair. "You looked ready to leave," I said. It was silly. She edged away, but I drew her back toward me. I thought it would be fun, but it wasn't. I wanted them to like me. They don't. She turned on the radio. I reached over and stroked her fingers. We drove, listening to the wind over the bay and an old Eric Clapton song. Finally, Caitlin's voice emerged from the darkness. "Nick, do you think—" "No." I remembered her crying. When she protested that I didn't know what she was going to say, I said, "I don't think anything bad about you, Caitlin." I kissed her fingers in time with the music. Then I eased her zipper down, put my hand under her dress, feeling the smooth flesh of her back, then lower. She moved away. I said, "No one's ever made me feel like this." "Like what? Excited?" Eyeing my straining fly. No, I laughed. I mean, yeah, that too, but any girl can get you off. With you? She gazed at me as I tried to put words together. It's like I've never done anything wrong. She leaned over then and touched my cheek. I worked my hand under her pantyhose. The song finished. The next one was fast, and Caitlin snapped off the radio. The road rolled on. When's your curfew? I asked. I was supposed to stay over Jessica's. Stay with me? You mean sleep with you? My father's in the Keys all weekend. My fingers worked up her thigh. A noise escaped her throat, but she tried to hide it. For a minute, she just stared at the road. Finally, she said, Yes, I want to. Good girl. It was 1:30. The breeze off the bay was finally cool, and I touched her. She leaned back, and I knew that tonight the world would change. She'd be mine forever. Caitlin sighed, and I stopped thinking, focusing on her skin under my fingers, her breath in my ear. I pulled into the driveway. March 25th, English class. Wednesday morning, Higgins in her turbo teacher transport rides the geek circuit known as Honors English, handing back American poetry tests. Cries of the wounded fill the air. My parents will kill me! Lucky you, mine will take away my computer. Higgins cruises on, oblivious to the carnage. She drops my paper with what, for her, passes for a smile. At least her waxen red lips gyrate. Maybe. I glance down. A+. Yes, the kid rides again. My GPA is the only facet of my existence that hasn't nosedived lately. I didn't care much before, but now I take whatever crumb of happiness I can salvage, even in American poetry. I return Higgins' simper with a grinlet of my own. Make her day. Beside me, the whispered grievances continue. Like to roll her down the stairs. How'd we get her upstairs? Details. Higgins taps her fist on the desk. Your assignment for the weekend. Write a poem in one of the styles discussed. Groans. General agitation. Does it have to rhyme? Lucille Schultklapper asks. Does it? Higgins says. Other classes just have to memorize the book, Amy says. Other classes aren't getting extra points for honors. Touché. The assignment stands, boys and girls, Higgins says. I expect impressive tales of teen angst, and I expect them no later than Monday morning. After class, I drift into the hall, trying to imagine a poetry topic that doesn't include Caitlin. I'd sworn her to secrecy about the pages of poetry I wrote for her when we were together, but writing about anything else seems impossible. Seeing Caitlin now doesn't help. Since she flaked on me last week, I've spent every molecule of energy not calling her, not seeing her, not crawling in her window at night, though I yearned to see her, longed for her voice, craved her touch. Today, she's touching Saint. They're doing the between the lockers lip lock she once did with me. Is she showing off? Trying to make me jealous? It works. My pancreas is gripped by a giant hand. Caitlin and Saint separate. She heads my way alone. Does she see me? I want to say I love you, I miss you. Instead, I whisper, fat pig, and move on. I'll leave Thanksgiving with Caitlin's mom to your imagination. March 28th. After class, Coconut Grove. I'm worried I'll violate my restraining order. Mario motions me to sit, and I pull a chair up to his desk. I had to wait to talk to him. People aren't clearing out as quickly as they used to. Hanging around instead to rehash what they've said in class or make plans to meet during the week. No one invites me. I guess I wasn't very friendly at first. If they weren't all so weird, I'd feel left out. Mario leans across the desk to give me his full attention. I'm glad you came to talk to me. Recognizing you've got a problem is a big part of solving it. Sure, I say, already regretting telling him. Tell me about what you're feeling, Nick. I lean back, taking out my sunglasses. I put them on and stare at him through their dark lenses. I just want to do something, like I have to see her, have to get her back. Have you tried anything yet? What am I, crazy? I can't tell him about the phone calls or talking to her at school. Everything said here is in the strictest confidence, he adds. Yeah, right. Well, I admit, I've passed her in the hall a few times at school. You didn't talk to her? Not yet. But you might? When I nod, he says, Tell me, Nick, what is it about Caitlin you miss so much? I can't help it. I remember Thanksgiving. Caitlin up to her ears in gravy and mashed potatoes, her mother on the sofa bitching that we should have gone to Denny's for dinner, Me just flattered Caitlin tried to cook for me. But I said, "Hey, a guy has needs." Mario winces. "We're talking physical needs here? There's another kind?" "I think so. Lots of times boys your age will say they miss sex when what they really miss is human contact." "Yeah, that's it." But I say, "No, I think it's sex." He reaches across the desk and slides my sunglasses off my nose. "Talk to me, Nick." I blink a second as my eyes get used to light again. Finally I say, "Yeah, I miss her. You have to make me stop missing her." Mario smiles. "I can't make you not miss her. I can tell you it gets easier every day you stay away." I look at his fat face, just dying to help me, and I have to bail. "Well, thanks. That's completely helpful." I pluck my sunglasses from his fingers and head for the door. His voice stops me. "Nick?" I turn to face him. "I know you already talked to her." "How would you know that?" "From getting to know you in class. You wouldn't come to me unless there was a real problem, unless you'd already stepped over the line. This is serious. Please stay and let's discuss it." When I shake my head, he walks toward me and takes out a business card. He writes 2 telephone numbers on it. "This is my home number, and this is my cell. If you need someone, day or night, call me." I take the card and shove it in my wallet, knowing I'll never use it. I turn to leave again. Mario stops me again. "I can't make you stay here, Nick, or make you talk to me. But just remember, violating that restraining order is a mistake you'll regret for the rest of your life." I replace my sunglasses and walk out the door. That night, he calls. When I see his name on caller ID, I'd let the answering machine pick it up. I reach for my journal. The saying goes that they tipped the country once, and all the weirdos slid to Key West. On Duval Street, Friday after Thanksgiving, I believed it. 2 beefy guys held hands in the doorway of a white clapboard building, and ahead of us, a drunken barmaid danced to the music in her head. The real world was across the 7-mile bridge, and we were halfway to Cuba, halfway to heaven. One look into Kat's eyes told me which was closer. We'd finally made it to Key West. Everybody who had lied to their parents, and Kat had blown off Thanksgiving with her father. It was worth it. I'd even managed to snag a private bedroom for Kat and me at Zach's parents' place. After the 4-hour drive and a day at the beach, we grabbed our fake IDs and hit Duval Street. Like I said, it was crowded. Outside a t-shirt shop, a dirt-crusted guy in stringy shorts played guitar for tips. Liana's hips gyrated to the music. Tom looked at the sidewalk. Zach kicked the guy's guitar case closed. The guy didn't look up, just stopped playing and reopened it. I kicked it again. "Quit it," Saint said. "Guy's trying to earn a living." He pulled a 5 from his wallet and threw it into the case. What a philanthropist. The guy stopped playing, eyeing the 5. Then he put down his guitar, stood, and threw his arms around Saint's neck, saying, "God bless you, man." We all stared. "I think he slipped O'Connor the tongue," Zach whispered. Saint finally broke free. 3 doors down, he said, "Shit, I was going to ask for change." "I can't believe you let him touch you," Peyton said. "What should I have done? Punched him out?" "Ignored him like everyone else," Peyton said. "I think it was nice," Caitlin said to Saint, taking his side, as usual. "Helping a fellow human being." "A fellow human being with fleas," I said. "What a snob," Saint said. Liana and Caitlin nodded. "You're just a better person, I guess," I said. It bugged me, Caitlin sucking up to O'Connor. Tom said nothing. He looked first at me, then Liana, like he was scoring a tennis match. Finally, he pointed to Liana's guidebook. "We should see Hemingway's house. It says here some of his cats have extra toes." We laughed then, and moved through the tequila-powered crowd. Kat spotted a teddy bear in a window and looked to me for permission to stop. I told her no way was she carrying that crap around. Instead, we ducked into a bar, one with no name above the door but live music pouring out. They didn't even check ID. 2 guys on stage were finishing a song when we arrived. The pudgy guitar player started another, the shoeless harmonica player joining in, although his missing teeth must have made it hard to play. Some older people danced to the music that wasn't meant for dancing. I said it looked beat. "I think it's colorful," Caitlin said. Was she going to contradict everything I said? "Who asked what you thought?" I said. But the others went for beer and I followed. The song finished. I played pool with Ashley standing close by. I had a second beer, and Tom emptied 2 bowls of peanuts. I'd been buzzed earlier. By then, I was flying. I ignored Kat and circled the pool table with Tom. "Don't get drunk," he said to me. "We're snorkeling tomorrow." "Mom? That you? It's been a while. Your little boy's done growed up." That shut Tom up pretty fast. 2 beers later, I noticed Kat talking to Zach. They looked pretty cozy, actually, considering she'd always said she hated him. I guess hosting us meant he got a chance at my girlfriend. Now she sat at his table, and he leaned close to whisper in her ear. I walked over. "Isn't Caitlin beautiful?" I said, placing my hands on her shoulders. I had to repeat it, yelling over the guitar feedback, but finally Zach agreed that, yes, Caitlin was beautiful. I said, "Almost makes you forget how fat and ugly she was a few months ago." Everyone heard that. Everyone heard because the song ended, and I was still yelling. Heads turned, first to me, then Caitlin. "Come on, Kat," I said. "Show them how hot you look. You know you want everyone to see." I grabbed her hand and yanked her forward. She wore a shirt over a white tank top. I tugged at the shirt. "Show them your tits, Kat." "Stop it!" She pulled away and dove for the chair. I blocked her way. "Come on, I want everyone to see what I'm getting." "This is because you're drunk," she said, sitting. I yanked her up. "Don't you ever sit when I say stand." I pulled her toward me even as she struggled to escape. By then, everyone was staring. Tom was behind me, trying to make me shut up. Someone yelled at me to leave Caitlin alone. "Hey, why aren't you rednecks playing?" I yelled. "Waiting for you to let go of the lady," the toothless one said. "Make me. I'll knock you out your other tooth." I kissed Caitlin hard. "She's with me." "Hey, how old are you anyway? This ain't no daycare center." They were playing Friends in Low Places when the manager threw us out. March 29th. Leo's house on Bayshore Drive, Coconut Grove. Everyone knew you were lying that day. Leo throws the accusation like a practice pitch in the Marlins game we're watching. It's the 4th Sunday in a row I've spent in Leo's undecorated room, watching a sporting event I mostly don't care about. I'm comfortable here, though. I'd always watched sports with Tom, but with Leo, there's a bond Tom and I didn't have. Leo and I both grew up in hell. Still, I ignore his statement. On screen, a runner slides home. The umpire calls him out. "He was so safe," I yell. "Nah, he was out," Leo says. "You see as well as the umpire," I say. "They need instant replays." "And that's your expert opinion?" He laughs. I point to my fist, but I laugh too, and we go back to watching the game. The next player strikes out. Finally, Leo says, "Did you hear me?" "What day?" I ask too quickly. "Earth to Nick." Leo leans near my ear. "I mean the day Mario asked about your old man." Leo's eyes never leave the screen. Like Tom, Leo's an athlete who considers watching the game homework. He told me he's had college and even pro scouts at his baseball games. You were so full of it, acting like you and your dad were buddies. I don't answer, staring at the game and thinking about my poem for English class. Finally, it changed the subject. "Where's Nasa? She's usually around." Leo's dark eyes swerve toward me. "Some family event that doesn't include me, bitch." "You want to do stuff with her family?" "Course not, but why does she have to? I told her she'd better start thinking about what I want, not just people who try to break us up." I hear Mario's voice in my ear, talking about controlling behavior. I shake it off. Leo's not controlling. He's like me. He's just looking out for his relationship. On screen, there's the typical SUV ad, a red truck on muddy mountains. I wonder if Caitlin's with Saint right now. Leo interrupts my thoughts. "I'm not talking about Nasa. I'm talking about you. We've been hanging together a month now, and it bugs me." "Huh?" "I spilled my guts in class, but your guts?" He makes a slicing motion across his stomach. "Your guts are intact. You got off easy." "Easy? I'm doing time every Saturday. How do you manage that, if you don't mind my asking?" Leo rubs thumb and fingers together in the classic payoff gesture. "Hector talked to Nasa's parents, and they decided to come clean. Her cousin's the one who roughed her up." "They dropped the charges?" "No sense jeopardizing my future for a case of mistaken identity." He looks to me for confirmation, and I nod. But I'm thinking, God, he paid them off. "So, answer my question." Cornered, I say. "The answer is, you know the answer. Sure, my dad and I don't get along. No big story. He knocks me around sometimes, not as much lately." Leo nods, not prodding me to go on. So I do. "I deal with him like you deal with Hector. I steer clear of him." Leo throws me a look, then holds it. A dealer weighing cocaine with his eyes. I must pass inspection because he says, "Know how I deal with Hector?" When I shake my head, he walks to the closet and opens its white louvered door. Inside, there are baseball cleats, rows of hanging pants, a safe. Leo kneels, turns the knob. The door swings open. He reaches inside. He takes out a gun. He holds it toward me. It is small and gray. From the care Leo takes handling it, I understand it's also loaded. I hesitate. Then my fingers close around its smooth metal barrel. The rest of it looks well used. Though it weighs barely more than one of Caitlin's hand weights, my arm sinks with the heft of it. It's real? Stupid question. Leo raises an eyebrow. What do you think? On television, the sportscaster screams, but it seems a whisper. The pitches come closer together, and every crack of the bat is a gunshot. You'd use it? If I have to. Leo takes the gun back. I won't, though. Hector knows I have it, knows it's loaded, ready to go, and if he hurts any of us... Leo raises the weapon like one used to handling such machinery and aims for the wall. Boom. He returns it to the safe, goes back to watching the game. But a few minutes later, he says, "You can borrow it any time." Later that day, around 7 o'clock. Writing in his journal seems better than thinking about what Leo showed me this afternoon, and a lot better than writing a poem for Higgins's class. Saturday was the day we saw the shark. By 9 the next morning, we'd sobered up, not counting the 3 coolers we'd loaded onto Zach's parents' yacht, and were bound for a reef off Key Largo. Zach drove like a wild man, and I loved watching Caitlin's body as the boat bounced across the waves. Caitlin was terrified. In case you think I'm exaggerating, I'll clarify. Caitlin was scared of water, boats, snorkeling, and sharks, stingrays, sawfish, and barracuda. That day, she was probably also afraid of tuna, suntan lotion, and Diet Coke. I tried to help by telling her that if we saw a great white, I'd stick my leg in its mouth, so she could swim to safety. "You're not very funny," she said, but I thought I saw her lips crinkle upward. So I kept going, telling her how sharks can swim 11 miles per hour. Even an Olympic swimmer can only do 5. I bent my leg backward. "Would you love me if I only had a stump?" That got her. She cracked up. Between giggles, she said, "Let's avoid the issue by staying on the boat." But Zach was dropping anchor, and the others were already sliding to join the early arrivals at the reef. Tom yelled for us to join them. I waved them off. "You don't have to, Caitlin," I said. "But even if something happened, you'd die in this magical place with the person who loves you the most in the world." "You're not afraid of dying?" "No one's dying." When she kept looking at me, I said, "No, I'm not afraid of that." She touched my shoulder. "What are you afraid of?" "Being without you," I answered before thinking. She kissed me. "You aren't afraid of anything, then." She looked at our friends and reached for her fins. After putting them on, she started to pull off the Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt she'd worn over her bathing suit. I stopped her. "Keep it on. You'll fry otherwise." "I have on sunscreen." I eyed Liana's butt in the water, imagining people looking at Caitlin like that. I didn't want anyone looking at her like that. "Look, I didn't want to say anything, but you've been eating like a pig lately, and it shows." She examined her stomach. "You think so?" "I'm the only one who'll tell you the truth." It worked. Caitlin sighed, slipped her swim vest over the t-shirt, added mask and snorkel. Then, as if she'd decided to get it over with, she jumped in. I watched the ocean filtering through her fingers, the trail of her yellow hair. Kat had courage stored for the winter. I loved and hated that. Hated it because I wanted her to need me. She had to need me. Still, I followed in her wake. Though she'd said she wasn't a strong swimmer, Caitlin pushed on. I only hoped she'd take me with her. Underwater was gray and bright at the same time. Breathing through a snorkel, all you can hear is your own snorkel-enhanced breath in your ears. But there was plenty to see. First, there was the reef, surprising shades of purple, green, and gold, with small fish who let us be part of their schools. Other creatures materialized. If anyone saw something worth investigating in the folds of coral, we'd take deep breaths and skim down far as our air would hold us. Down there, that seems like forever. Breathing was unimportant. We made a game, seeing who could find the best sights to show the rest. At first, there were only the usual clown and parrotfish, floating like forgotten balloons. Soon I spotted a huge cuda in the shadow of someone's boat. I was Lord High Ruler, at least until Saint said he saw a sawfish. Funny thing was, no one else could find this enormous thing. Saint insisted it was in the rocks somewhere. It's in your mind, I said, and he gave me the finger. We wasted 10 minutes searching for a non-existent sawfish, and were starting to think about lunch. Then Liana surfaced with bright eyes and one word: shark. Kat started paddling toward the boat. I yelled, 11 miles per hour, Kat! Liana glared at me. It's a nurse shark. They're harmless. She swam after Caitlin. She doesn't have to go. I followed them while everyone else dove down to investigate. Caitlin hung with one foot on the boat's ladder. Don't scare her, Nick, Liana said. Then to Caitlin, it won't hurt you, Gadita. Come and see. I'm not the one pushing her, I said. Oh, right. Mr. Patient and Understanding. You forget. I know you, Nick. Liana joined Caitlin where she hung. Around us, heads popped through blue water, everyone talking about how cool the shark was. Come on, Kat, Liana said. Let's go together. I said, don't push her, I said. Butt out. I'll go, Caitlin said. I'll go, okay? Liana extended her hand, and before I could join them, they were under. I spit out my snorkel and followed, down, down, past the living purple coral to the gray world below. The shark was still there, barely visible, lurking huge and silent with an outcropping of rocks. I saw eyes, beady and close, nose like a dog's snout. Though it could have killed us with one swift chomp, it only floated, bright round eyes meeting mine. Caitlin hung back. She and the shark watched each other. Finally, she realized it wasn't going to jump out like an amusement park monster, and she swam closer. We were down there 10 seconds, maybe. Liana left, and I started to feel my lungs give out. I was gulping to make myself feel like I had air, exhaling like crazy. Unable to last longer, I grabbed Kat's hand and we swam to the surface. My lungs felt thick. Caitlin came up an instant later. I did it, she said, like a kid who'd eaten a bug on a dare. I can't believe it. Wasn't she beautiful, Nikki? I just know she was a girl shark, and I wasn't afraid. Me! I wasn't afraid. Can we go again? Kat was practically panting, but her eyes shone. I looked up at the boat. I don't know. We've been in over an hour. Everyone's having lunch. She didn't argue, just said, oh well, at least I saw her, and swam toward the boat. She threw off her flippers and ran to Liana, thanking her for making her go. I was forgotten. You did it, Gadita! Liana snuck a glance at me. I just believed in you. After lunch, sandwiches prepped by the Schaefer's maid, we settled in. I'd oiled up and insinuated my body next to Kat's, balling a towel over my trunks in anticipation of the borderline sick sex dreams that come from sleeping in sun. I closed my eyes, waiting for sleep to take me. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I pulled an eye open. It was Tom. Sup, brother? He put a finger to lips and gestured toward Saint, who looked like a beached rhinoceros on his stomach. Tom crept toward him and whispered something in his ear. No response. Tom whipped out a zinc oxide stick and started writing. When he finished, he stood back so I could see. I laughed. He'd inscribed Justin Forever in zinc on O'Connor's unsuspecting back, assuring Saint a semi-permanent skin shrine to the god of tweenage girls. O'Connor would not be a happy camper when he woke up. I said no way was I sleeping now, but Tom said, don't worry, next one's for me. Tom flopped on a towel and started drawing on his leg with zinc. No one stirred. Pretty soon, Tom the artiste had drawn a creditable dolphin, the school mascot. Do you do Billy the Marlin too? I asked. Tom laughed. For a price. What price? Information. Noticed you and... He gestured toward Caitlin. Shared a room last night. Bed too, I'd imagine. You doing her? Cornered, I grinned. I prefer to think of it as the ultimate physical expression of our spiritual oneness. Which involves what? Doing her? If you want to be gross. And proud of it. Tom slapped my shoulder, letting me know I needed more lotion. I can't believe you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me your first time. One good reason. Tom looked around, then lowered his voice. I am pure as a newborn babe. You're shitting me. I shit you not. Liana's saving herself for marriage. Think Kat wasn't? Tom leaned on his elbow. You didn't force Caitlin or anything? Course not. Just let her know she wasn't the only girl around. I reached for Tom's Panama Jack, glancing at Caitlin. Her eyes were closed, her face motionless. You can't be so whipped. You have to call the shots. Tom sat up. I just heard that. Who you callin' whipped? A guy who's whipped? Tom was on me. I put up a fight, yelling. You trying to get some from me because you can't get it anywhere else? No one stirred. We fought harder, like we used to fight when we were kids. He pinned my arms. He was laughing, but I could tell he was a little serious, too. Am I still whipped, he yelled. Like cream, which incidentally is, I didn't finish. He pulled me up and dragged me to the side of the boat. Still? I nodded. He hoisted me onto the rail. I kicked him a few times before I stopped struggling and grinned at him. You know, this is interesting, I said. I read somewhere that purity brings superhuman strength. Asshole! Tom pushed me into the ocean. I fell head-on and got a throatful of salt water. When I surfaced, spitting out the ocean, my first words were, Still whipped. Tom jumped almost on top of me with a splash that should have awakened everyone. We both treaded water a minute. He said, You know, I'm glad you were first. You had so much more to prove. March 29th, 10:30 p.m. My desk, third straight hour. Teammates. Whistle shrill high. Let the skirmish begin. Bodies colliding. Sun stings my naked eyeballs. Fainting, then attacking. They struggle to win. But I'm on the sidelines, apart from the crowd. Your eyes meet mine and see only reflection. Your legs piston, powerful, a hero once more. And I stand alone, drenched in sweat and untold secrets, but slapping your hand, saying everything's fine. I stare at the lines my hands, apparently incommunicado with my brain, have typed. I'm screwed if I turn this in. Football seemed like a safe topic. I chose blank verse because my mind was equally blank. At least I thought it was. But I ended up writing about Tom. Things I hadn't even thought I'd thought. An hour later, the poem's still in my face. My brain is an abyss. I try, but the only images I can channel are of Caitlin. Caitlin dancing on Duval Street. Caitlin's hands, fanning green waters. Caitlin swimming in the moonlight. I blame the journal. It's become my torment and my salvation. The cable that binds me to the past by being my sole reality. And somehow, when I see it on paper, it becomes more real than when it's just in my head. I should stop writing. Mario doesn't look at it, and it makes me think pointless thoughts. Wonder if things could have been different. With Kat? With Tom even? If I'd told Tom how it was at home, would it have changed anything? He was my best friend. Could he have helped? No. He'd have laughed at me. I shove the poem into my backpack and take out my journal. I'm back with Caitlin. Except I don't want to be where I'm going now. The road north was straight and long. The mangroves surrounding it stank like stale beer. Kat and I were alone, me memorizing the license number ahead, an out-of-state tag that said Fishin'. Caitlin wearing sunglasses, eyeing the 5 o'clock sky. Why was she so relaxed? She wasn't stuck driving, that's why. Wasn't driving down this 2-lane road behind Fishin', who traveled below the speed limit. Jesus Christ. I sped up, almost tapping his bumper. Kat opened her mouth and shut it. Good choice. One-word signs lined the road. Patience. Pays. Only. 2 miles. 2 passing zone. I had no patience. 2 miles took 5 minutes because of Fishin'. Finally, we hit the passing zone, and I gunned past 5 cars, barely slipping in front of the last. We were near the 7-mile bridge. I could see water ahead. Caitlin stirred beside me, fiddling with her sunglasses. Finally, she said, Nick, we need to talk. About what? She moved away. About Friday on Duval Street. How you were drinking. How you acted. I clutched the wheel. Friday was pretty much a blur, although Tom and Dane had reamed me for getting us thrown out of that bar. How I acted? Nick, you know I love you, but sometimes you act like someone else. Caitlin looked away. I stared forward, but my heart was ramming into my ribs. Did she want to break up? Sometimes you're not nice to me, she concluded. Not nice, huh? I said. She could not leave me. Kat turned toward the window. Sometimes it's like you don't trust me, she said. She was trying to break up. Who was it? Saint? Maybe even Zach? My tires met the bridge. 2 lanes suspended between sky and water. The ultimate no-passing zone. Only an occasional car drove the left lane, but visibility sucked. Sun turned water tangerine. Caitlin fidgeted. I said you don't trust me. I heard you. I'm deciding how to respond. She could not leave me. As I hit the word respond, I pulled to the left, veering into the southbound lane. Then I floored it past 3 cars. A southbound Volvo station wagon slammed its brakes within yards of us. The driver was honking, yelling. I pulled back into the northbound lane and flipped him off. I looked at Caitlin. Her mouth hung in mid-scream. I laughed. Do you trust me, Kat? She was silent. I leaned closer. Did I ever tell you about my mother? Caitlin recovered enough to shake her head no, and I said, I was 4, 5. I'd lay awake nights, listening to her and my dad fighting, him hitting her. I looked at Caitlin. You want to hear this? She nodded. I thought we'd pack up and leave someday, her and I. I lived for that day. On the wheel, my knuckles were white. Then, one morning, I wake up, and she's gone. Never came back. She ran from the monster and left me there with him. Caitlin removed her sunglasses. I'm sorry, Nick. So you talk about trust, it's pretty important. I mean, when the one person you trust just picks up and leaves? Caitlin's hand slipped across my shoulder. I tried to shrug her off, swerving left into traffic, then back. Terror filled Caitlin's eyes. Her nails ripped my flesh. Trust me, Kat? She could not leave me. I swerved again. 'Cause if you haven't figured it out, life doesn't mean much to me. Without you, it's worthless. A flock of seagulls headed across my windshield. She could not leave me. I swerved again, this time counting 3 before I veered back. She could not leave me. Caitlin screamed at me to stop. What's the matter? When she didn't answer, I swerved again. Oh, this! Maybe you're right. I straightened the wheel, looking beyond her to the orange and green water east of the bridge. Silence. I didn't swerve. Nothing. We were halfway across. Caitlin relaxed. Suddenly I said, Think I could make a right here? Right was into the water. I made like I'd do it, crashed through the guardrail, then down. Caitlin screamed. She grabbed for the wheel. I shoved her away so her fingers clawed the air. She tried again, gripping both my hands. The car swerved left into the path of a Bronco towing a boat. I pulled it back. My mind knew what she was doing, but my eyes didn't. I couldn't see her. She was shrieking. God, shut up! Her voice deafened me, and it was all around in my ears, making me lose all control. She tried to grab the wheel. Blind and deaf, I drove, sun hot on my face. I had to get her off me. God, I just had to get her off me. Get her off me. Get her off me. Get off! Next thing I knew, I was driving on land. I couldn't tell you whether it was minutes or hours later. Caitlin hung across the seat, head cradled in her fingers. My hand throbbed, and I knew I'd hit her. I'd hit her. I was tired. She'd worn me out, but the anger inside me dissolved, replaced by that regret. But I'd had to stop her. She'd been irrational, overwrought. Shouldn't have touched the wheel. She could have killed us. I looked at her. The seat was the length of a football field. Caitlin faced the window. She was so beautiful. Ahead was a red pickup with a Jesus fish. It was going at a good clip, but when we reached the next passing zone, I overtook it and a few other cars. Kat stiffened. I merged back into traffic and reached to stroke her hair. She lifted her head, cautious as a runner stealing home, and stared. Are you all right, Kat? I asked. When she didn't answer, I repeated the question. She shook her head. You hit me. I told her no, I hadn't. I mean, she was grabbing the wheel. We'd almost creamed the Bronco. I had to get her off me before we got killed. Because you were driving off the bridge, she said. I laughed and said she knew me better. I was just screwing around, like when we kidnapped them from Jessica's. I'd never do it for real. Besides, we'd have crashed the guardrail, and I'd have gotten killed for wrecking the car. But you hit me, Nick. She leaned out the window toward the side view mirror to see if her cheek was getting red. And it was. I didn't expect it to be red, but it was. A little. I hadn't hit her hard, just enough to get her off me. I said, Don't you know you shouldn't grab the wheel when someone's driving? But I thought... She was pretty shaken. Mad, maybe? I pulled her close. Sorry I freaked you out, kitty cat. I forget you aren't used to guys. You don't know we play rough sometimes. She kept protesting, and I said, You know what I was thinking? I wanted to buy you a ring. Like a symbol, since we're going together. What's your birthstone? Still, she stared like her life was flashing before her eyes. You hit me, Nick. I kissed her. She drew away, and I pulled her back. Your birthday's in February, right? I'll ask the jeweler what the stone is. I held her close until she stopped struggling. The sun was down, but it wasn't dark enough for a moon, and we crossed bridges connecting to the islands. Big Pine Key, Plantation Key, Key Largo. Then we drove through mainland Miami a while. When we reached home, the sky above Rickenbacker Causeway was black, and Caitlin slept on my shoulder. March 30th, 8 a.m., Miss Higgins' classroom. I want to be Ludwig when I grow up. I admire Beethoven's musical flair, and won't mind when children sneer in disgust at my pickled expression Gorgon hair. The opening quatrain of a sonnet by Derek Wayne. Higgins slumps in her wheelchair. Me, I'm freaking. I heard nothing about reading those poems aloud. No way I can read this. No way. Derek winds to a close. Wish he'd written something longer, and Elsa volunteers. Mine's a haiku, Miss Higgins, Elsa says in her most self-important voice. It's called Unseen Violence. She reads, The dragon's lurking, hidden behind eyes of green, at a desk so near. My blood jumps like a fumbled ball. People have been leaving me alone lately, but by syllable 12 of Elsa's poem, every eye meets mine. God, I hate her. I glance sideways, let my eyes sear into hers. She smirks. I remind myself to breathe. Higgins looks from Elsa to me, then back. See me after class, Elsa. She turns to me. We may as well have yours, Nicholas. Call on someone else. I'm calling on you. I can't read mine. Snickers. Higgins' horseshoe-shaped eyebrows rise still higher. Shock treatment. You didn't do the assignment? Dog ate his homework, Elsa whispers. I look at Higgins. I did it. I just can't read it here. Elsa stuffing knuckles into her oversized mouth. It's personal. All creative writing is personal, Nicholas. My poem's not about Beethoven or dragons. I manage a sneer at Elsa. I didn't hear you say we had to read it. Higgins tensed her fingers, sizing me up, and for a second, I think she'll cut me a break. No such luck. If you didn't complete the assignment, I'm afraid I'll have to give me an F, I say? Fine. My forehead is tight. I do not want an F. An F is irreplaceable. With an F, my final grade will be a B, something I've never gotten in English, and my father will freak. But that's in the future. Right now, there's only slow death by humiliation if I read. After class, I wait. I consider begging Higgins to let me write something else, but Elsa's at her desk. Words like self-control, appropriate, propriety slither from Higgins' lips, and Elsa nods, saying she had no idea we'd be reading aloud. Still, when she faces me, she's smiling. Was your poem about Caitlin? She whispers, passing my desk. No, about you. I couldn't read it because it was pornographic. All my wet dreams about your non-existent tits and bony elbows. Pig! Elsa pulls her books to her chest. By the way, Caitlin's hot and heavy with some football player. Thanks. I knew that. But hearing it makes me long to do something. Long to tell or show or make Caitlin know I'm the one for her. I wait for Elsa to leave, then start for the door. Nicholas? I turn to face Miss Higgins. Didn't you do the assignment, she asks. I try to smile. Don't I always? I pull the paper from my notebook. Her whitish eyes take me in. Yes, you're a good student. I hate to ruin a perfect transcript, but I believe reading aloud is essential to writing. Following instructions is up there too. Why wouldn't you read? I'll write something else and read it tomorrow. You must have expected me to see it. I hold the paper out with my good student smile. You can see it. I drop it onto her desk and walk out. When I enter the hall, a fist rams my face. Leave her alone! Caitlin's gone, Nick. Mrs. McCourt's lacy red negligee left little to the imagination, and her feather-slippered feet sported crimson toenails. I wondered whether she'd put on fresh polish for bed. I was so busy gaping I barely heard her. I think I managed, Huh? Caitlin left. I thought she was with you. Mrs. McCourt threw open the door, waving her hand in what was probably meant as an inviting gesture. She offered me a muffin. But I was out of there before you could say magic crystal. Why did Caitlin leave? I always drove her to school. I jumped into the car, not opening the door. A block later, I saw Caitlin, looking lonely in white pants and a green linen shirt. I pulled beside her. She turned. Her face looked different, almost out of line. Then I realized it was her makeup, heavier than usual. It still didn't cover the red mark under her eye. My breath quickened. I'd done that. How? I barely touched her. Her eyes met mine. She said, "I can't see you anymore, Nick." I followed, cruising at idle speed. Why? She kept walking. Why? Because you hit me, Nick. You hit me. You practically kill us driving home in the wrong lane. Then you hit me. Does any of this ring a bell? She crossed the sidewalk and started walking in people's yards. I ditched the car to run after her. In a few steps, I lost my breath. Impossible. I ran miles at football practice, but Caitlin's words knocked the wind out of me. God, it was a slap. Barely a mark, yet I was helpless to the point of desperation. I put my hands on her shoulders, and she recoiled like I'd hit her again. I begged her to give me another chance, but she said, "No, I can't take it. I can't be with someone who hurts me." She broke into a run, and I chased her like an asshole. I was an asshole. We were near school. The traffic jam had started. Heads whirled at the awesome sight of Nick Andreas chasing the homecoming princess down the street. I barely noticed. I was too busy begging for another chance, telling her what scum I was. It was all my fault. I was as close to bawling as I get. Bawling about what a loser I was and how I'd do anything to make it up to her. Anything. She stopped at the parking lot entrance, and cars worked around her. "I'm sorry, Nick. But you said you loved me. Is that something you turn on and off?" "I just can't be with you. If you love me, I can change." Caitlin said she wished she could believe that. Then she turned and started toward the oak tree where our group met every morning. She said she wouldn't tell anyone what happened. Why was she doing this? I wanted to run, throw myself at her feet, or maybe grab her shoulders and shake her until she begged me to stop. But she stood by Saint, their bodies perfect as puzzle pieces. I was the one who didn't fit. I trudged to my car. One thing was sure. I'd do anything to get her back. March 30th. My bedroom. The mirror reveals the only black eye I've gotten from anyone but my father. This one's courtesy of Saint. And Tom. Tom was with him. They'd ambushed me coming from English class. After the punch, Saint grabbed my arm and held them behind my back. "Leave her alone," Saint yelled. I didn't struggle, just looked at him. "What do you mean?" I said, my father's face taking over, his cool eyes appraising Saint's fiery ones. I'd seen that face enough to be able to put it on and off. I hated myself for it. "You know damn well. Stop calling her. Stop talking to her in the halls. Stop leaving little presents in her locker." He shook me with every sentence. "She's not interested, okay?" "Who's not?" I said, cool as he was hot. "Caitlin?" "I'm not allowed to talk to Caitlin." "Don't screw with me. We both know you do, and I don't need a court order to kick your ass." He shoved me against a locker. "Consider this a preview." "Come on, Nick," Tom pleaded with me. "Just lay off." I glared at him. "You're not speaking to me, so shut up." I pulled from Saint's grip. "And you're just pissed I got there first." As I walked away, Saint yelled, "By the way, thanks for the roses." I told her I bought them. Now I pull the photograph of Tom and me off the mirror. I look at it a second before I rip it unrecognizable. I'd been camped on Caitlin's doorstep since 2, after a morning spent on the beach, texting her over and over to forgive me. She didn't answer, and there was nowhere else I could think of to be. At 5:45, Caitlin showed up with Elsa. I demanded to know where she'd been. "What business is that of yours?" Elsa said. Caitlin fished for her keys, avoiding my eyes. "We need to talk," I said. Elsa grabbed Caitlin's arm. "She isn't speaking to you." "Aren't you supposed to be somewhere?" I said. When Elsa didn't move, I thrust a silver-wrapped package toward Caitlin. "I can't, Nick. It's hard for me to admit this, even to a notebook. Even to myself. But at that point, I begged. Flat out begged her to open it. It was my only chance. I sank to my knees, not caring how I looked, Nothing mattered. Nothing. And finally, Caitlin gave in. She pulled from Elsa's grip, eyes weary under her heavy makeup. I straightened. She took the package, peeled off the paper, gasping at the leather-crusted box. She opened it. The amethyst caught the sun's dying rays from its diamond perch. Caitlin's eyes widened. I was going to wait till Christmas, I said, but there won't be Christmas without you. There's nothing good for me without you. Elsa made that tiny violin gesture with thumb and forefinger, but Caitlin turned the box in her hand. Put it on, I said. Elsa's voice. She won't take you back just because. I love you, Caitlin. I ignored Elsa. Caitlin, you can't be bought with some trinket. Elsa was angry. She pointed to Caitlin. You think I haven't noticed that big red mark on your face? He did that to you. No, I didn't. Did he? Elsa demanded. Caitlin? Caitlin was silent. We stood there a long time. Caitlin looked from me to Elsa, then back. Finally, she said, Of course not. Oh, God, you're such a liar. You should be happy together. A liar and a criminal. Elsa stormed into the street, not checking for traffic. Caitlin started to follow. I stopped her, saying, Try it on, Cat. I don't know. You're going to let her boss you around? I slipped the box from Caitlin's hand and removed the ring. I took her hand. When she didn't pull away, I eased the ring over her knuckle. Give me a chance, Cat. I don't know. So you don't love me anymore? Caitlin didn't answer. Mrs. McCourt's car pulled into the garage. I heard footsteps in the house. Then she was in our faces. She winked at me, barely looking at Caitlin. Your hair's a mess. Can't believe he stays around with you looking like that. She smiled at me again. I still held Caitlin's hand and saw Mrs. McCourt's eyes go from my face to our hands. They lit on the ring. Where'd you get that? Caitlin raised her head. Nick gave it to me. Give it back. A young lady does not accept jewelry from a gentleman. She turned her shadowed eyes on me. Where does a boy your age get that kind of money? Caitlin muttered something about dealing cocaine, and her mother said, Sarcasm isn't attractive. Who's being sarcastic? Caitlin said. Mrs. McCourt shook her head. Caitlin can't keep the ring, Nick. I'm keeping it, Caitlin said, which was news to me. She crossed her arms, stuffing the ringed hand between her elbow and breast. I think you'd be happy someone buys me a present. But no, you're jealous. Don't be ridiculous. Caitlin didn't respond. Mrs. McCourt yanked her into the house and slammed the door. I walked to the driveway, unsure whether I was high as a concert audience or lower than a flea at an NBA convention. When I got to the car, I heard my name. I searched the pink shutters for an open window. I walked toward it. I could barely see through the screen, but she held up her hand and the ring gleamed. I'll keep it, she said. To piss off your mother? She sent me to my room. Can you believe it? Caitlin rattled the screen until it detached. She stuck her hand under and reached for mine. It's not the ring. It's you. All day, I've thought about what you said about changing, how you love me. I didn't tell anyone we broke up except Elsa. Big mistake. Was it? She nodded. The black screen didn't dull her blue eyes when she said, I love you, Nick. I want to be with you. I just want you not to hit me. I promised I wouldn't, and she said, I believe you. March 30th, 9 p.m., Mustard Watermelon Bar, South Miami. Hello? The payphone smells of booze and hairspray. I grip it, taking a swig of beer. Across the room, Leo, in someone's University of Miami baseball jersey, tries his moves on a redhead. Caitlin's voice fills my ear. Why are you doing this, Nick? She's different. At least she sounds different to me. Wheel of Fortune blares in the background, and Caitlin sounds used up. Is it Saint's threats? Mario's nagging? No, it's me. The only thing that's changed is me. Please leave me alone, Caitlin's new voice says, and I want to obey if it would make her sound happier. Leo gestures from the bar. I wave him off, closing my eyes, trying for the feeling I used to get with Caitlin, how it felt to know she loved me, could love me. No good. Please, Nick. Leo calls my name when Kat says it. I push the receiver button, leave the half-full beer on the ledge, and find Leo. He's added a blonde to his circle, overripe but borderline beautiful, and obviously meant for me. She smiles. Leo palms my shoulder. Nick, meet Laura. He sees her notice my black eye. Nick got hit with a baseball. Cut the crap. But I nod and straddle the bar stool. Laura leans against me, smelling like the telephone did, and I feel the roundness of her breast on my arm. I don't react. Can I get you something? The bartender asks. You have a Mountain Dew? I ask, suddenly remembering Mario's rule about no alcohol. Why am I even here? The bartender shakes his head. This isn't McDonald's. Order beer, Laura says, but I wave the guy off and look at Leo. He's making out with the redhead. I wonder where Nasa is tonight. Laura watches me, putting her hand on my butt. I don't react. Finally, she says, What are you, gay? That's it. I leave her standing there and return to the telephone. I fumble for Mario's card. He said call him any time. I stare at his name a minute before shoving the card back into my wallet. I call a cab. I fall painfully sober into bed. When I wake, the digital clock flashes 12 o'clock. My watch says 8:30. I'm late for school. I remember I'd been dreaming of Caitlin, and I roll over, longing to dream of her one last time. Later, when I wake up for the second time, the first thing I do is pick up the journal. Funny, I didn't want to write in it. Now I'm way over the word count I needed. I could probably stop, but I have to see this through to the end. If I don't, I have the feeling I'll drown. So I was being careful again, freaking about whether I'd made the wrong move. Sometimes I heard Elsa's voice. He did that to you. And saw Caitlin running from me. But Caitlin wore my ring, and everyone knew she was my girl. At school, Tom was big news. Back in October, he'd bet Liana that if an opposing team scored 10 points on our defense, he'd get a short haircut. Liana had been lobbying for that anyway. What if you win? I'd asked once. If no one scores 10 points, you get anything good? He smiled. Not like you mean, little buddy. Liana said she'd cook me dinner. I'd called him a sucker, but by late November, no one had scored 10 against us, and Tom got the credit. Key was having its first winning season, and if we won the last game scheduled to coincide with Key's annual Winterfest Carnival, we'd make the regionals. What she doesn't know is, if I lose, I'm shaving my head, Tom said as we walked to the chorus room to meet Caitlin one day after returning from Key West. Two guys, hands still greasy from auto shop, accosted Tom, wanting to rub his head for good luck. One guy even called Tom Samson. I said I guessed that made Liana Delilah. Tom didn't answer at that, because at that second, Caitlin rushed from the chorus room. Derek Wayne, hot on her heels. Derek was saying, You know you want to do it, and Caitlin giggled, practically crashing into us. Do what? I asked, giving Derek my best glare. Oh, nothing. Caitlin tried to pull me toward the parking lot. Derek walked away. I didn't budge. I want to know what Wayne the Brain wants you to do. It's silly. Just Mrs. Reyes said I should try out for the Winterfest talent show. That's great, Kat, Tom said. If she asked you, she must think you're really good, like when Coach told me to bulk up so I could be starting linebacker. He couldn't say that if the position wasn't available. I was getting a little sick of Tom and football. Caitlin was beaming, and I said, Wouldn't that take a lot of time, though? You've got your sorority meetings. We were approaching the parking lot, and suddenly it was like a conga line heading for Tom, except the music was more insane clown posse than Gloria Estefan. Several generic-looking cheerleader types approached Tom about being a target in Friday's pie-throwing raffle. Liana materialized from the crowd, along with a reporter from Keynotes. Dave Doobie Dooley, who smoked pot behind the bushes mornings before school, threw himself at Tom's shoulders, shrieking, Don't let her scalp you, man! Some freshman JV players followed, giving Tom we're-not-worthy gestures. I steered Caitlin around the carnage. Once we broke from Tom, we walked alone. We reached the car, and I opened Caitlin's door. I don't want you in that talent show. I didn't like it. She'd have extra practices, then be parading herself on stage for everyone to see. But Tom said, The Gridiron Hero's a music critic now? He had a point, so go out with Tom. When Caitlin started to protest, I said, Look, I'm trying to protect you. I heard you sing. You suck. I don't want you embarrassing both of us. She started babbling about what Mrs. Reyes had said, and I said, Are you deaf or just stupid? I said no. Subject closed. Why did she have to do stuff to set me off? I saw my fist clench in my lap. Caitlin saw it too. She stared at my hand, then at my face. Finally, she said, I guess you're right. I'm really not good enough. That's my girl. I put my arm around her, kissing her. Will your mom be late tonight? Probably around 7. So I'll come over after practice. Sure, she said, and I kissed her again. Tom and Liana finally broke from the crowd, and we drove to Mr. Pizza together. Caitlin didn't mention the talent show again, and neither did Tom. Still, it nagged at me. All I'd had to do was make a fist, and she'd given in. Or had she?